This is from, for those of you interested, might have the book handy, chapter 4, the opening. Every chapter of Wild Mercy opens with a kind of prose poem that invokes the essence of that chapter. So chapter 4 is melting down, dissolving into the one. Ever since you first tasted the elixir of nobodiness, maybe in the midst of meditating or grieving, you have lost your hunger for somebodiness. Ever since you first tasted the elixir of nobodiness, you've lost your hunger for somebodiness. Mainstream culture conditioned you to construct a persona and defend it with all your might. The endless self-improvement project, fueled by self-loathing and foiled by the realities of the human condition, has only reinforced the illusion that you're separate from your source. But a combination of spiritual practice and tragic losses has ended that game. You, for one, are relieved to surrender. Your surrender is invisible. You still go through the motions of promoting your work on social media. You make an effort to limit your carbs, practice yoga, pick out interesting things to wear. But that's not because you actually identify as an individual being, detached from all other beings, or from the earth, or from the Holy One. You've come to understand that a functioning ego is a necessary vessel for an incarnate soul. You just don't regard your ego as a problem. You don't take it seriously either, which used to piss your ego off given its self-important nature, but it's getting used to it. When you were young, you recognized ultimate reality as beloved, and you developed a powerful crush. Over the decades, your roles reversed and reversed again. You were the seeker. You were the sought. Eventually, in moments of deep stillness or unbearable anguish, lover and beloved melded. Only love remained. This state of suchness looked like emptiness, but felt like plenitude. You came to understand that not only have you been connected to your beloved all along, but that you are that which you had been seeking. You had expected God to be the price you would collect after all the hard work of seeking God. It turns out that the object you thought of as you does not exist, which means the subject you called God is not real either. You would have anticipated such an insight to be devastating, but it isn't. It's amusing. Chuckling at the cosmic joke, you get on with business. There are temples to build, curricula to develop, sonatas to compose, startups to start up. You did not buy your equanimity cheaply. Frequent firestorms eradicated your opinion on the matter. Multiple meltdowns led you to a place where your only option was to melt. Who knew that dissolving could be so sweet? So, as Rami also said this morning, when we speak about masculine spirituality and feminine spirituality, we're not speaking only about women and men, or speaking only to men and to women. We're speaking to people of all genders who are yearning to reclaim feminine wisdom and re-presence the voice of women and of the feminine. And like Rami, I've seen many of my sisters in their effort to muscle their way into the table of the boys, the spiritual boys club, in some ways forfeit their feminine knowingness and recapitulate those patriarchal structures that have historically oppressed us. So maybe the emerging spiritual family is going to look very different from those structures that we've inherited, that so many of the young people that I work with, especially young people of color, I've noticed, are finding completely irrelevant to their lives. And that we will find a new, somewhat chaotic, but abundantly, voluptuously creative way of being in community and being on a path of awakening and service. And I guarantee that it will be rooted in the feminine understanding of interconnectedness and interbeing, as Thich Nhat Hanh so beautifully calls it. Knowing that we belong to each other, and that there is this beautiful kind of Mobius strip effect with when we cultivate a contemplative life, a life of contemplative presence that probably includes some silence and stillness. We are given the grace of tasting our interconnectedness with all that is. You know, when you have one of those deep states of meditation, or maybe it's watching a sunset, or making love, or making a salad, but there are those moments of full presence that are such gifts that can happen to us when we allow space for them to happen. Not guaranteed, because they're, at least the Christian mystics say that prayer of quiet is an experience of grace, but it can't happen unless you kind of sweep out the chamber and make room for it. But when we have those experiences of union, of unitive consciousness, it's not like we stay there. I mean, I wouldn't even want to stay there, even though I treasure those moments of remembering that I belong to the one. When we return to our so-called ordinary, or we might call dualistic consciousness, it's with that sweetness and fire of having dissolved into what is, and it infuses us with a sense, at least it does me, a sense then of everything that then I do and get to be and experience is part of that one that I have discovered I belong to. And so all of the glorious multiplicity of life, including the traumas and the tragedies, are not other than that space of union that we get to taste in fleeting moments of contemplative experience, right? It becomes a natural outflowing of it. I don't think it's an accident that all the world's great spiritual traditions use love language as a metaphor for the relationship between the self and the divine. That lover and beloved and yearning for union with the beloved characterizes this dance of union and separation, and longing and rejoicing, and grief and surrender.